Ottessa Moshfegh's Lapvona begs the question, what if one of Charles Dickens' child protagonists was an absolute freak? So, spanning a year in the fiefdom of Lapvona, the narrative kind of flits through the tribulations of the troubled son of a shepherd, Mark. It's like Marek, but it's Mark. And all the ills that sort of befall him. So he's bruised and beaten by his father Jude, and Marek believes that he deserves punishment and that suffering brings him closer to God. And though he is sort of a deformed and abused boy, he absorbs these lashings and continues his hard farm work as a form of gaining pity from his main source of reprieve, Ina, who is his childhood wet nurse. And returning to Ina's hut to ask for nursing way past his infancy, Marek desires this comfort as a way of processing his necessity for pain. So pain from the beatings, pain from his situation, and also an internal pain from his mother's absence from his life. So consequently, Marek's natural state is warped into one of subservience by his father, by God, by Ina, and also by his friendship with the Lord's son of the fiefdom, Jacob. Jacob lives in his privilege and his finery with a sense of unsettledness. He's restless due to the planned nature of his life, instead wanting a simpler world of exploration and namelessness. And he resides in this oblivion of his, you know, in regard to his nice clothes, his handsome face, his satiated belly, and a freedom of movement that come from those riches. And whilst Marek loves to flatter and serve, seeing Jacob's new shoes and his desire to hunt birds, who Marek believes are liminal religious creatures, Marek is moved to throw a stone at his lordly friend. This sets into motion the power struggle in Lapvona and Marek's violent proximity to the Lord's family. So when Jacob dies, falling off the mountainside they climb to find birds, Jude, Marek's father, trying to escape fault, exchanges his own son with William, the Lord of the fiefdom, thereby making Marek the new heir of Lapvona. Part of William's insidious behaviour is a deep-rooted need to be entertained constantly. His maids are trained for it, he has dancers and singers and storytellers in constant rotation so that he may never truly be alone or bored. And Marek, now living in the manor, becomes part of this revolving cast of entertainers. Moreover, equipped with his own personal servant now, called Lisbeth, Marek has more than he ever sought after, yet he feels disconnected to pain now, and therefore also God. He feels remorse in eating meat and living lavishly, as he believes it against God and to be evil, and especially since he once felt kinship with the lambs that he helped raise, he slowly realises that Lisbeth, with her more stripped back, tortured life of cabbage leaves and eternal servitude, belongs to God more than he ever can now. So as the story progresses, summer in Lapvona has brought drought. The crops have failed, the livestock are dying, though William lives on extravagantly after diverting the mountain's water into his own personal reservoir. And Marek's time at the manor basically makes him disillusioned with God, as he realises William's control over the peasants' lives. William and his priest, Father Barnabas, organise bandits and espouse stories of the devil being loose in their fiefdom, all to steal away the peasants' work and support. I think this is where it gets interesting, as Moshfegh explores illiteracy as a way of control. The corrupt priest is allowed to preach whatever he would like, to shade William and his own luxuries from harm, as his congregation cannot actually read the Bible or the teachings for themselves. Marek himself has no understanding of why Christmas was important. He just thinks that it's a holy day. He doesn't understand that it's like Jesus' birthday, as he can't glean the meaning of the text himself. They cannot read the teachings of how wealth cannot be hoarded, and therefore are resigned to fear God and what might happen if they disrupt or dishonour him because of what Father Barnabas has always taught them. The character of Ina, the wet nurse, is revealed to be blind, and this disability in this book has given her spiritual power to communicate with birds. She understands what the people of Lapvona cannot, as the birds allow her to see William's poisonous decisions for the fiefdom. And this is seen when she understands why the drought happens. The drought leads leads to many moral complications throughout Lapvona, which gives rise to Lapvonian resident Grigor's suspicion. He feels like a repulsed spectator to deep-seated, twisted grossness of the congregation's actions, and he believes it to be this witch's fault, here being Ina. Vulgarity is very focal to Lapvona's messaging, much of which is born from the fantastical essence of Ina's breast milk, which seems to cure ailments. The novel is sort of famed for its overuse of bodily exploration and how depraved this aspect becomes. But the only real body fluid that feels off-putting is the nursing of several grown men throughout the book, a constant reminder of the men who sort of refuse to accept their problems and grow up, but are instead drawn back to a time where they get to be coddled and taken care of. Even William, whose vices lay elsewhere, is stuck dormant in a perverted version of a childish state, continuously needing answers and assertion from all those around him, which is a direct comparison to all the solitary and very strong-willed female characters within this story. Writing in this book paces forward quite quickly, with an easy divide between each season, so we go from spring to spring again, and the short, direct writing style embodies the bleak misery of many of the characters that we follow, and all in all, it's a very simple story of Lord bad, religion used for evil, peasants oppressed, that is sort of swamped and overshadowed by this detached absurdity in which all of the body stuff is, like, described. The Guardian's Rob Doyle comments on how Moshfegh writes morally neutral scenes of physical and sexual humiliation. The cannibalism, the magical breast milk, rape, etc. are all written in a very unconventionally removed way to reiterate the macabre setting of Lapvona, but also the stupidity of each character that lives there. Shelby Polk writes for Shondaland that for Lapvonians, there isn't any outside comparison or envy of the way that people live, but neither is there any conception of a better way of life. And when there are scary, unknown people to blame for their issues, the Lapvonians don't have to confront their homegrown evils. Hence the unlikability of all the stupid characters, and also the malleability of religion within the fiefdom. Moshfegh, within this same interview, says that the non-confrontational spirit builds delusion and dependency, which then in a crisis like the famine caused by the drought in the book, creates enmity, jealousy, and selfishness. The book is quite sparse in telling us what moral or what story it really wants us to take away from it. Here, I think we can comprehend from the author's own words that a book probably written during the height of, or at least during the time of like waning off COVID precaution, at a time perhaps where there was no vaccine availability, where there was sort of anti-mask, anti-community terror, the type of behaviour that was kind of influencing and inspiring this novel when it was happening. I don't know if this was a good review. Like, I only read like a couple of other things about this book after I'd already written most of the reviews. So there's some about the Rob Doyle and the Shelby Polk. I went and read some other ones because I really didn't want to be, I didn't want to take anything from anyone else until the very end of what I was going to say. And I think I didn't do a very good job, but I wanted to try out a review because I'm like, I never write reviews, and I think reviews are so important, especially like actual reviews, like literary criticism and reviewing, instead of just being like, this is what happens in this book and this is like some tropes. I want to like actually look at it. Like, this is not a sad girl book, this is a book about the most random shit in the world. So yeah, I also didn't realize a lot of people really didn't like this book. Like, going through some of the Goodreads reviews just quickly before I started filming this, I was like, people really don't like this book. I didn't think this was like my favourite book. I tried to be kind of objective when writing this review, I guess. I guess you are allowed to give some of your opinions, but I thought it was fine. Like, I thought it was decent, and it was definitely like Otessa Moshfegh-y. So I'm just like, interesting that so many people didn't like it, because I don't think My Year of Rest and Relaxation was particularly like nice or dainty. It's definitely like kind of gross, and the main character was horrible. So I don't know what about this was so uncomfortable to so many people who clearly liked that. Maybe like Eileen is very different. I've not read Eileen, so like I can't really speak for it, but interesting that so many people were like, this is super gross. Maybe it's because I've watched a lot of like horror movies where there's just like odd shit happening in them a lot, so I don't feel as sort of taken aback by something like this. I watched Barbarian recently, and that was really gross. So when I was reading this, I was like, this is not as bad as The Barbarian. So maybe I'm just like a little bit more in tune to like weird shit. I don't think it's my favorite thing of hers that I've read, but I've not read that much. I've only read like 2 short stories, and then my era of rest and relaxation. So I'm happy with this. But yeah, thank you for watching. Tell me if the review was any good, because I'm like genuinely not sure what a review really should look like. Because I've read some and I'm like, they're always so detached from the story, and they're always like talking about stuff that I'm like, what the fuck does this have to do with the book? Why have you written, like, they always like introduce the book in this really odd way when I'm reading like literary like books and literary like magazines, and they do book reviews in those. I'm just like, oh my god, is this what you're meant to do? They're always like going on about something random and then they'll bring it back to the book, and I'm like, I don't know if I needed that introduction. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you had a great day, and tell me what you think about this book if you've read it, because I assume you've read it if you watch this. I didn't spoil too much in this, to be fair, so yeah, tell me what you thought about the review and tell me what you thought about the book. I would like to know, because there's a lot more negative reviews than I expected. But yeah.